I have casually mentioned the fact that I like to drink beer.
Hey, welcome to Barley and Hops. I'm George. It's nice to have you back. You know, the most important thing, or the most fun that we have, is really the time we get to spend with you. So please sit back and enjoy. Continue to comment. We really love the comments on YouTube. Like us on Facebook, and please share us with your friends. If nothing else, subscribe. You know, it really makes us feel a whole lot better, and the effort we put into this, it really pays off. We've made a lot of friends in a lot of great places in a lot of distant lands. Hey, one of our most recent, and I want to give a shout out to someone, a new friend that we have become acquainted with, Robert Underwood. If you're out there, Robert, how you doing, buddy? Semper Fi. And he's all the way from Lincoln, Nebraska. We've spent a lot of time on the phone talking about our projects and things. We kind of have similar minds because we're going to figure out, sometimes we're going to come up with a solution, then we look for a problem to apply it to. Some of you guys out there know what I'm talking about. All right. Hey, today is going to be an interesting day again because we're going to do a couple of different things. So we're going to move the camera around just a little bit later so we can finish up the video. But we're going to start with kegging in a 5-gallon keg our beer that we made in our Fast Ferment. So we're going to transfer the beer from the Fast Ferment into the keg, and while we do that, that's going to give us a couple of minutes to talk about a few other things. So we'll fill you up with some other information. So this is the Fast Ferment, and this is the bag that I used, and I had this bag around the outside because I hang ice bottles inside there, and I can maintain a really cool temperature so I can keep a positive, my positive environment for my yeast, which is between 68 and 72 degrees. Now, it's pretty easy. I mean, but I'm here in Texas. In Texas, it's really hot. For those of you who know about Texas. And you never really know how hot it's going to be on one day as opposed to the next day. So what has always happened is I've always been stuck with turning the air conditioner down, you know, and keeping it that way all through the night and all through the weekends as I ferment up in the shop. Well, since I've got these bags, I can just about turn that air conditioner off while I'm not here and maintain a cool temperature inside the bag because it's insulated. So what I'll do is, let's open this up and give you a look. And if you'll recall, I've kind of moved things around the store a little bit. So I want to give you a look at that. This is the Fast Ferment. It's 7.8 gallons of space, usable space. And we usually make about a little over 5 gallons of beer at a time. And it's only because I lose a little bit each time I clean out the ball. So I always make a little bit extra so that I've got 5 gallons in the very end. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to transfer this beer from here into my keg. Now, in the past, we did a video on forced carbonation in kegs. And there is a way to do a forced carbonation with a CO2 bottle, you know, by pumping it up to 35 PSI and then rolling it around and then, you know, let it sit, drop it back to 15 and allow it to sit overnight. And that usually gets the proper volumes of CO2 in your beer, but that's for those guys who are in a hurry, you know, want to get to that beer right away. I'm not really that much in a hurry. I've got some other beer already on tap that I'm going through. It's the Pilsner we made last time. But this is the amber, the pale ale. Yeah, and so I'm going to do a natural carbonation in this one, which is the same thing you would do in a bottle. And if you recall, when you're making beer and you put it in a bottle to carbonate it, which is called conditioning, when you're conditioning that beer, you add a certain amount of sugar, which is priming sugar, and corn sugar, dextrose, and you'll add that to the beer, and then you bottle it, and in hopes that the remaining yeast that are still inside that beer will eat that sugar, and they will produce CO2 as their byproduct and carbonate the beer. That takes about 10 days, 10 or 15 days or so. It can take a little bit longer. It all depends on the gravity of your beer, you know, and the conditions. But what we're going to do is we're going to do it all at one time, and we're going to do it in our keg. Now, there are several different layers or levels of carbonation in beer that you may be familiar with. Let's take, for example, a Hefeweizen with a really big head. Or there's another, a really good Pils that has a really frothy, thick, foamy head. Now we're talking about heads, but with those heads, what produces those heads really is the basis starts with CO2. And then there are some beers that you'll pour out and you'll notice that there's just not that much of it, but it makes the beer that much better. So each character of beer has a different level, which they call volume, a volume level of CO2 that's been introduced. And I've already figured out that what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a lower, under the mid-level, which a mid-level would be a Sten, just like a regular beer, because this is going to be my pale ale. And so I'm putting 4.15 ounces of corn sugar in here instead of the normal 5 ounces. Rule of thumb is 1 ounce of corn sugar per gallon will give you the, just sort of like the average. If you don't know what it is you're looking for, look, 1 ounce per gallon is going to get you there. But if you're trying to, tweak it just a little bit, you can go into the books, you can go into the information, you can find out what volumes you're looking for. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pour the corn sugar into the keg. Now, here's a question. Could I have opened up the Fast Ferment, poured the sugar in, and stirred it? Excuse me. And then transferred the beer into the keg? Absolutely. I could have done that. I could have poured half of the beer in there, then I could have introduced the sugar, and then pour the rest of the beer in there. That would have done it as well. I could have poured all the beer into the keg, and then added the sugar, and then stirred it. All three methods would have worked. Or 4 methods. It doesn't really matter. And again, see, this is one of those examples of there are so many different techniques. So I choose to do it that way because to me it's a whole lot easier. I figure, in my mind, pouring the beer in there is going to cause that to start to mix up. And believe it or not, in the very end, I'm going to put the lid on that and I'm going to shake it up anyway. So we'll get there. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is turn off the ball valve. And then we're going to remove the ball. That's what I love about these things. There. They're so user-friendly. Now, I'll put the ball down. I've got a small 1-gallon bucket down there that I put the ball in so that I've got a place to put that. Now, I'll just attach the hose. And this has already been sprayed with Star San. And I'm a Star San fan. Star San is a spray contact sanitizer. And it allows you to just spray your equipment, shake it, and start using it. It's a contact sanitizer. And I caution here. First, let's pull out the airlock. If you don't pull out the airlock, as soon as I open the valve, it's going to suck everything in that airlock back inside. I don't want that to happen. I could also remove the lid, but I'm just going to take off the airlock for right now. Lay the airlock over here. So, a caution for those who have a septic system and you're using Star San. People will mix up a gallon at a time of Star San. They'll soak their items in it, or they'll use it, to kind of rinse over. Please don't pour it down the sink, or the toilet, or the bathtub, because that will go into your septic system. And unbeknownst to you, this stuff is. Bottom line is, this stuff is so good, it's going to kill all those good bacteria also and things inside your septic system that you absolutely need. So you're going to wind up with a backed up toilet at some point. And you're going to have to reintroduce that stuff. So please don't pour this down the sink. If anything, just pour it out in the yard somewhere or in the drain. If you put it in a spray bottle, it'll last almost forever. But if you leave it open, it'll go bad. Here we go. Then I just open up the valve, and I allow that beer to fill in there. Now while that's doing that, oh, this is a great time to just talk about other things that are going on. Now, you've got pin lock kegs and you got ball lock kegs. And these are pin locks. And they call them pin locks because they have, you'll notice they've got these, whoa, there's my hand. They've got these pins around the outside of the connectors. And a ball lock keg doesn't have those. So, that's the difference between the two kegs. Now, these kegs are made, they're old Pepsi, Coke, root beer kegs, and they're perfect for home brewers because they allow a home brewer to move his beer around, and also you can get inside and clean those, and they're very, very useful. So, yeah, we're just going to give that time to filter down, flow into our keg, and we'll be with you shortly. You can see our pictures we've got here of some of our local brewers. We do that as well. We'll make anybody a hero, and everybody is a star. That is just about finished. There it goes. The only thing left to do now is put the lid on that, kind of give it a shake. And I'm going to put it in the corner and I'm going to let that ferment. It's going to ferment because it's got a little bit of sugar in it, but it'll carbonate. Now, one last thing. And for those who are wine makers, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If not, just don't worry about it because you're a beer maker. But how can we carbonate beer by adding more sugar? Well, because we have yeast that are left over. Remember, yeast are a very, very viable little animal. And they don't go away, they don't die off unless you kill them. Now, in winemaking, what we would have done is we would have put sorbate in our wine, and then we would have bottled the wine. And when we put sorbate in, the sorbate cocoons the yeast so that it cannot come back to life or eat anymore. So it kind of just puts it in a suspended animation. We haven't done that, and we don't do that with beer. So when we transfer the beer, we're going to transfer the beer, yeast and everything is going to be still in here. You can't get rid of that. It's always going to be there. They're going to be there somewhere. Your beer can be crystal clear, but there are still yeasts in there. And if we add sugar to it, those yeasts are going to all of a sudden, just like those old fat guys sitting on the couch drinking beer watching TV, they're going to come back to life when you give them another beer. Well, if you give them more sugar, the yeast are going to come back to life. So of course they eat the sugar. They produce a little bit more ethyl alcohol, but their other byproduct, yep, you guessed it, CO2. And that's what carbonates the beer. That's all there is to it. Okay, we'll be with you in just a few minutes. Yep, now comes the cleanup portion. Yeah, you know, you spill a little bit, you drop some stuff, you know how it works. Look, but the keg's finished. You know, I've got it all topped off and shook up and put away. So I'm gonna clean this up for now, and we'll get on to the next topic here in just a little while. So for all of you out there, happy brewing and happy distilling. And Robert, you take care. We'll see you, or I'll talk to you on the phone. How's that?
It makes me a job.